This is a new day. This is a new day full of sound and light and expectation. This day has been waiting for you. This day has been waiting especially for you, to embrace you, to guide you. This day has been waiting with open arms, just for you. This is the day we have been given. Let's not waste it. Come now, and let us worship together. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone from across the world, joining us on Facebook Live, Zoom, later on YouTube. We'll just take a moment. Everyone here in the sanctuary could just wave a little bit in your seat. Yeah, just keep it up there for a second. It takes our tech team a little bit, just so we can make sure that we catch you and can show you to our people. Good. Welcome. It's a blessing to be here. It's really nice. Upcoming winter solstice, upcoming Christmas Eve, and we're going to be celebrating both of those services here in this church. So on winter solstice, which is December 21st, we're going to be celebrating right here outside in our patio at 4:30 p.m. We're going to have hot cider, cocoa. We'll have some kind of warmth, I see Kathleen nodding her head. We'll have some nice patio heaters for you all, although it's been a pretty mild season so far, so I think we'll be okay. That's going to be 4:30 p.m., December 21st, out on the patio. And we will be celebrating Christmas Eve service here in the sanctuary and online, virtually on Zoom and Facebook Live. It's going to be Christmas Eve, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You can join us for that. It'll be a beautiful candlelight service where we can sing Silent Night together and enjoy being together. I do have a sad announcement for you. A beloved member, Amelia Brewer, passed away yesterday from pneumonia. I was able to see her a few days before she passed at St. Elizabeth's Hospital. But please hold her family and her community and all of us in your hearts during this time. Her sister Bess is here from Tennessee. So please hold Bess, hold all her friends where she lived, and everyone in this community. Amelia Brewer was and is beloved and an important member of this church. So hold everyone who knows her during this time. And also, I want to bring your attention to a Christmas in Recovery project. Hope, another beloved member, is organizing gifts for families who are in recovery and they can't afford or are struggling to afford basic presents for their children. And so we are taking a collection so that they can give really nice gifts to their children. That's going to be downstairs after service. We're all going to go down to Channing Hall. There's going to be Equal Exchange coffee for sale and also a way to give to this Christmas in Recovery project. And for those online, if you can put your email or some kind of contact information so you can give to that project, it would be very welcome. And now for our chalice lighting from Gary Davenport.
Good morning. It is funny to write a reflection about something when there's scarce light to reflect off of anything, isn't it? But that will soon not be the case, because in a couple days the sun will stand still, turn around, and go back the way it came. Just a couple more days that for many of us may feel like months while we will be seeking the sun. It reminds me of a joke about Geppetto from the folktale Pinocchio, but I'll return to that in a bit. It has been almost 3 real long months since the sun was ruling most of our day. Since the June solstice, the last time the sun stood still, the longest day of the year, the sun has shone less and less each day, by about 3 minutes, tipping the balance toward night. And since September, when day and night were equal, it feels like we have been swallowed whole by darkness. The sensation of having been swallowed by darkness is real. If you're working an 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 type job, outdoor time is relegated to days off and the weekends, if you get them. When you can be outdoors, your ability to stay outdoors or do anything is limited by fair temperature and weather, which we have just as quickly been losing as the sun. So this is the dark time of year, the belly of the beast, so to speak. For me, and perhaps many of you, this means lethargy, fuzzy memory, the feeling that even an acute happiness is diluted from what it would have been with more sun. And acute happinesses may come fewer and farther between. It's like the sleep mode on a computer, or starting a car in the cold, or the light bulb that burnt out over the kitchen table. The slow and dark time of the year. But in just a couple more days, the sun will shine its very least, stand still, and turn back and go in the other direction. Indeed, that is what the solstice is. The word's meaning is a standing still of the sun. After it stands still, letting us freeze in the very darkestness, it will turn around and head back in the direction it came. From December 22nd, we will gain a little light every day by about 3 minutes a day. And that is how I am reminded of Geppetto, the woodworker from the folktale Pinocchio, who sought far and wide over the globe and ended up in the dark belly of a whale, seeking his son. And then here it says, allow laughter. Yes, that is the joke. Like Geppetto, we are swallowed in darkness and seeking our son. In all seriousness, though, as we celebrate the darkness of the winter solstice and seek the sun, we can plan how we may engage in the world once it is warmer and brighter. What might we do in the spring and summer? What may we plan over the winter? It is with these thoughts and feelings that we light our chalice today in honor of the winter solstice. May it warm us until the sun can.
The Shortest Day by Wendy Pfeiffer, illustrated by Jesse Reich. In late autumn, in the northern part of the world, squirrels hide nuts, foxes grow thick fur coats, and flocks of birds fly to warmer places. As the sun gets lower and lower in the sky, the north gets less and less daylight. The air grows colder. Chickadees fluff their feathers to keep warm. Woodchucks hibernate in their burrows, and white-tailed deer nuzzle through the snow to find the last blades of grass. On short winter days, children bundle in warm clothes and walk through a frosty white world. On long winter nights, families eat dinner while it's dark outside. Like all days, December 21st has 24 hours, but it's called the shortest day because it has the fewest hours of daylight. The shortest day, called the winter solstice, is the beginning of winter. Long ago, people didn't understand why each day had less sunshine than the day before. Some believed that evil spirits made the sun go away. People feared that the sun wouldn't shine on them anymore, making their world cold and dreary and dark. They held ceremonies that lasted for weeks to persuade their gods to bring back the sun. Over the years, people noticed that after short days, the days got gradually longer. Joyous people bathed in the sun's warmth and light. They celebrated their harvest. About 5,000 years ago, the early astronomers planned to mark the shortest day. Then each year, people would know when the days would start getting longer again. They stacked stones to frame the setting sun. They made a special opening like a keyhole. When the setting sun's rays beamed through that opening, people knew the shortest day was over. Days gradually got longer for the next 6 months. When the sun appeared farthest to the north, its rays shone through another keyhole. People knew it was the longest day of the year, the first day of summer. In China, over 3,000 years ago, astronomers measured shadows to determine the shortest day. They knew that as the sun appeared higher in the sky, the shadows would get shorter and the days would get longer. For many years, all around the world, there have been winter solstice celebrations. People still celebrate today at the beginning of winter by decorating their houses, lighting the darkness, gathering together, and exchanging gifts. They no longer worry that the sun will disappear forever. People celebrate the shortest day because longer days follow. Flocks of birds will return, seedling oak trees will sprout, and children can play outside after dinner. For more than 5,000 years, people have welcomed the winter solstice because it's a new beginning.
Please join me in reading the covenant of our church, which you can find in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Still getting used to multitasking in real life. Each month, we donate all loose cash and unmarked checks put in the offering plate to a nonprofit organization whose mission and actions are consistent with the UU principles and mission of UUYO. For the month of December, the organization is DRUM, which stands for Diverse and Revolutionary UU Multicultural Ministries, which is a Unitarian Universalist people of color ministry and anti-racist collective, bringing lay and religious professionals together to overcome racism through resistance and transform Unitarian Universalism through our multicultural experiences. DRUM developed from several older ministries, namely the African American UU Ministries and Jubilee World Anti-Racism Change Trainings. DRUM has a growing membership of UU people of color from every district and region. As an all-volunteer ministry, DRUM continues to lead efforts to fulfill the journey towards wholeness, resolution, and towards becoming an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, multicultural UUA, creating space for youth, young adults, and our families of color to heal and work collectively, and steward an effective organization that develops new leadership and manages consistent communication with its members. Your generous contributions this month will help DRUM and UUYO meet our shared mission to dismantle white supremacy and racism in ourselves and our systems. In order to accomplish this, it is critical to center and support efforts like DRUM that are led by people of color. For those of you who are in the sanctuary, there are 2 offering plates. One is up here on this little podium in front of the pews, and then there's one in the back corner. We're not going to pass the plates, so if you do have a donation, please put them in one of those 2 plates. And then those of you joining online, there will be a link put into the chat box for you to make your donation electronically. So we will now receive the offering that supports the life of Youngstown, the Mahoning Valley, and our wider world.
Please join me in a time of meditation. And as we sit, let us hold family and friends of Amelia Brewer and all those who know loss in this season.
Our first reading this morning is titled The World by Jennifer Chang. One winter, I lived north, alone and effortless, dreaming myself into the past. Perhaps, I thought, words could replenish privacy. Outside, a red bicycle froze into form, made the world faster in its white austerity. So much happens after harvest. The moon performing novelty, slaughter, snow. 1 hour the same as the next, I held my hands or held the snow. I was like a sculpture, forgetting or perhaps remembering everything. Red wings in the snow, red thoughts ablaze in the war I was having with myself again. Everything I hate about the world, I hate about myself. Even now, writing as if it were a law of nature. Say there were deer, fleet in the snow, walking out the cold and more ginkgos bare in the beggar's grove. Say I was not the only one who saw or heard the trees, their diffidence greater than my noise. Perhaps the future is a tiny flame that I'll nick from a candle. First I'm burning, then numb. Why must every winter grow colder and more sure?
This is a reading from Wendell Berry, To Know the Dark. To go in the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without sight, and find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings.
So I'm going to sneak in one more real short reading because it makes sense with everything that I'm about to say. I hope you will allow me to do that. I'm borrowing this from the church's Facebook page, of all places. Inspiration comes in the weirdest ways, you know? There's a quote from a Mary Oliver poem. "Someone I loved once gave me a box full of darkness. It took me years to understand that this, too, was a gift." So speaking of gifts, over the years, and especially lately, I've heard many say that the thing they want the most sought after, hard to come by, top of the list, must have, can't live without it for one more second, gift, is nothing. I'm one of these. I want nothing. Nothing in a box, nothing in a sock or a stocking, nothing under a tree. Nope, it is nothing for me. This might sound strange. Surely everyone must want something, right? And nothingness tends to call up feelings of emptiness, darkness, stillness, silence, and other unpleasantries. But nothingness and its compatriots are not ghosts sent out to haunt or taunt us. As Mary Oliver says, a box full of darkness is still a gift. The winter solstice, as we have heard, is the shortest day and the longest night, coming up on Tuesday. And though since daylight savings, it feels as though I wake up, blink, and the daylight is fading already, and night quickly comes rushing in. So frustrating. Anybody else frustrated by that? Yeah? I know that you are. I hope that you are. It's frustrating. And I'll admit, I'm more in the loss of the sun and the warmth and the light and the movement that it inspires. But after the initial shock, I come to appreciate Wendell Berry's darkness too, which blooms and sings and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. There is something frighteningly beautiful about the severity of the darkness, especially in winter. It seems that as air, earth, and water freeze and cease their usual routines, so too do all living creatures. Everything seems to stop and disappear. But we know that that's not entirely true. We see evidence, memories of life and activity during this time of death and rest. We see claw and paw prints in the snow, slight disturbances in our gardens, nuts or shells tucked away in crooks and crevices, sometimes where we don't want them. Soft rustling leaves and swaying sprigs, we see all of these things. And the sweetness of these subtleties is what I have come to love about the cold, dark winter season. Life does slow down, like molasses dropping from a cold metal spoon, but it does not lose its rich, complex essence. Winter allows us, even forces us, to pay attention to things that we've overlooked or undervalued. The cold arrests the frantic pace we try to keep, and the darkness requires us to open ourselves up to experience the world with all of our senses. We can't only rely on what we see. And I, too, was like a sculpture, forgetting or perhaps remembering everything during this time. So as we approach the winter solstice, I encourage you, as you are able, to go outdoors and celebrate the solace of the season with all of your senses. Feel the cold air prickle your cheeks. Smell the singed caramel undertones of a fire. Taste the freshly brewed hot coffee, but let it cool off first, or you will be feeling the burn, which is not recommended. Listen to the whispers of the trees, our sacred secret keepers, and still watch for signs of life, of others sharing this season, this special place with us. There was just an NPR report by Katie Bowman urging us to opt outside this holiday season. Bowman shares a staggering statistic that we already spend too much time. Quote, 80% of American adults and youth fail to meet recommended daily movement needed to stave off chronic disease. And with the pandemic, adolescents spend over 7 hours a day looking at a screen. I'm not an adolescent, but I spend probably that, if not more, staring at a screen. It's terrible. The benefits of frolics in the forest or even spending time with friends by a fire are multifaceted, benefiting both our physical and mental health and well-being. And as we know, the outdoors offers us the safest way to gather together now, no matter what we choose to do once we're out there. So even the cold, dark winter, we see nature offering us chances for hope and healing. And you don't even have to wait until Tuesday to celebrate the solstice and to get outside and enjoy the gifts of winter. There's an opportunity to do this today. For those of you who may be interested, Mill Creek Metro Parks is hosting a guided nighttime hike in recognition of the cold moon, which is the last and longest full moon of the year. The Old Farmer's Almanac defines December's full moon, the cold moon, as, quote, coming from a Mohawk name that conveys the frigid conditions of this time of year when the cold weather truly begins to grip us. I'm sure the cold weather will get here someday soon. And I've had the opportunity to go on a few of these moonlit, multi-layered meanderings. They are incredible. I spend almost every day in the park, to the point where if I see someone share a photo on social media, I can tell you where they were with a pretty high degree of confidence and accuracy. It's kind of a problem. But each time that I have gone on one of these night hikes, I am transported into an entirely different place. Because nothing is familiar, my internal roadmap is useless. I have to allow myself to fully experience with each step, each shifting shadow, each cracking twig, each crunch of a leaf or snow underfoot, and experience these things as though it was the first time. So maybe I was wrong. I don't want nothing for the holidays. What I really want is the magic, the mysteries, and the gifts of winter's darkness.
The winter solstice is characterized by a returning of the light after a period of darkness. The return of the light is gradual and incremental, increasing every day by a matter of seconds, minutes. A return that is only noticed by those who are attentive and watchful. The interplay of light and dark is what brings our whole world into existence. And each light and dark, I think, contains an aspect of the divine, an aspect that is beautiful, resonant, and beyond our full knowing. I remember early on in the pandemic, I was hearing from some of those who were homebound before the pandemic that it felt as if during the pandemic we were all being welcomed into their world. There was an equality of sorts. And in a sense, there has been equality, even in the midst of stark inequality during this time. We are all being confronted with limits. The limits placed on us by nature, the limits placed on us by our collective human behavior in response to nature. The impact, for sure, is unequal, impacting those with higher health risks, higher risk due to inability to access health care, even access to vaccinations. Believe it or not, the impact is unequal in terms of income, in terms of race, in terms of numerous factors. But where we are all equal is that nobody knows for certain what our life will become. No epidemiologist knows this for certain. No politician knows this. No minister knows this. Darkness reminds me of mystery. And mystery for me is much more than not knowing what will happen. Mystery is not just something outside of me, it is something inside of me as well. Perhaps it is all of me. Mystery is that sacred quality where in darkness we all become equal. In the darkness we sense and we lose our bearings. And boundaries are not as clear. Those who are used to navigating the world without sight learn how to navigate darkness. They learn how to move through it, to be with it, to not be afraid of it. Those dependent on sight are often at a great disadvantage in darkness. For those who rely on sight, the darkness can feel like a loss, like we've lost our way, lost our senses, lost our way of navigating the world. But those who don't depend on sight already know there is a way to navigate, and it is well practiced. I think our sight is always limited, even if we think of ourselves with extraordinary vision. Because you see, true vision is not dependent on light. True vision is not dependent on sight. True vision is not dependent on seeming certainty. True vision comes from a combination of trust and experience. Trust that we can allow ourselves to bump into things, bump into each other while we practice to live in a new world. We can trust that with practice, with experience, we can navigate times of darkness as well as light, and we come to know for ourselves their connection to one another, their complete dependence on one another. In Western Christian culture, some misinterpret Scripture and think that light is preferable to dark, but I think that is a common misreading. In the first verse of Torah, first verse of the Bible in Genesis, it says, "In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth was without form, and darkness was upon the face of the deep." According to the text, God created darkness. And since later in Genesis, God looked at creation and said it was good, we can assume that the darkness, which is a creation, is also good. Pre-Christian, earth-centered cultures, pagan cultures, made this very clear in celebrating the winter solstice. The gathering of people, the gathering in ritual began in darkness. All the planning, thoughts, hopes began in a period of darkness. Night combined with freezing temperatures can be deadly. There was a yearning for balance, so fires were started. People came together to keep warm, to gather resources so the community could have a warm drink, warm food, warm fellowship. Too much cold could cause a person traveling and living outside to freeze to death. Too much fire, Too much light would scorch and burn a person, leading to pain. The balance was necessary. Not too much light, not too much darkness, but a balance, a synthesis, a combination of the two. But often the world seems out of balance. There can be simply too much of something, and it gives us the feeling of being overwhelmed. Winter solstice is a reminder of the promise that light will return, that the days will grow longer, slowly but surely. Winter solstice is not a celebration of light. It is a celebration of balance, of interdependence. Too much light is uncomfortable and inhospitable. Too much sunlight is not good for our skin, our bodies, our soil. Winter solstice is a celebration of harmony, of the coming together of darkness and light, the shared unity, the merging of difference, while respecting the particular strength, beauty, and usefulness of each part. If darkness shows us the beauty of equality, the beauty of porous boundaries, the beauty of possibility where everybody and everything looks the same, light too has a particular strength and beauty. Light shows us difference. It clarifies who we are, who other people are, how this place is different from that place. Too much light, too much emphasis on difference makes us feel isolated. It makes us feel alone. And it makes us feel distrustful of difference. Taken to an extreme, too much light can obscure our vision, make us fearful of going outside of our comfort zones, outside of our habits. Too much light can make us forget the fundamental equality found in darkness. But just enough light, just enough, is a lifesaver. Light warms us, inspires us, reminds us of ourselves and our values. Each worship service, we light a chalice. The chalice was a symbol of our Unitarian Service Committee during World War II. Unitarians in Nazi-occupied territories used the chalice as a symbol put on the doors of certain homes to let Jews know they could go there for safety, where they could help find escape into the United States. The chalice showed how we were different than the Nazi forces that governed their country. It is good to be different and to help other people recognize that difference. For me, the chalice is not more beautiful when we light it. It is just different. It is also beautiful when we put the chalice out at the end of service. It has a different beauty then. It's the same as everything else in the sanctuary. An object like a book, a piece of paper, a pulpit. But I like lighting the chalice too. It always feels slightly dangerous to me. I'm always acutely aware each time I light it that I hope to bring to this sanctuary just enough light. not to tip it over and cause a fire. We want just enough light, a little flicker of a flame to guide our way during this service and in our life. That's often all we need, I think, just a little light to guide our way, not too much. I don't know if you've had the experience of walking through an unfamiliar room, especially if it's dark. You can't see much, and someone who relies on sight in these circumstances is still at a great disadvantage because it makes a person unsteady and timid. A small candle or a small flashlight is not helpful for our sight, actually. It's helpful for our spirit. It's a comfort, a small form of encouragement that we can make it, that we're on the right track. Or it shows that perhaps we need to turn around and go another way. Light does not give us omniscience. It does not show us everything. Light keeps us company. It encourages us. It encourages us to go on. I came to that understanding early on in the pandemic. For a while, myself included, many felt we were entering into the unknown, a time when our usual way of living was not going to help us navigate this new time. There was a sense that we would need a different kind of practice, or to tap different kinds of resources in ourselves and in our communities. I remember one Sunday looking at our lit chalice during worship while I was listening to beautiful music, and I realized on a deeper level what we were doing here. We were bringing just enough light to encourage us to go on. It didn't require a lot of light. You didn't need to be someone else. I didn't need to be someone else. We could be unsteady, be uncertain, be timid, be frustrated, and still go on with the help of a little light on a consistent basis. And I saw the key was consistency, and that we did have some agency ourselves. We had to desire the light, just a little bit. We had to have the desire for some guidance, some modest desire. Otherwise, there could be no light. Or more accurately, there would be light, but we would never be able to appreciate it. I discovered that this box of matches, which was bought before my tenure, is very hard to light. Very hard to light those matches. I often, in a Sunday service, would get so frustrated trying to light using one of these matches, I would break the match in half. Until one Sunday, I had a bright idea. I asked if anyone had a lighter. And lo and behold, someone had a lighter. And it was so much easier to light this chalice. And I didn't have to, get so frustrated. And that was an important lesson. I don't need to have all the resources. I don't need to have all the resources. You don't need to have every single resource. We can come together as a community and we can ask. We can ask when there's a need. We can benefit by being open to one another. I've spoken with a number of you this past week who are very worried about our future. Very worried. Given the new variant and winter approaching. I know some of you are quite thrown and stressed by Youngstown City schools that are now going back to being completely remote and virtual. I know some of you are watching the news and seeing Broadway shows and so forth being shut down, and wondering if we are heading back into a more cautious way of living. I don't know. I don't know what the future will bring any more than you do, but I do know a few things. I know we have all the ingredients in this community to navigate the unknown together. No matter what happens, and I truly mean that, no matter what happens, we can take comfort that we have here just enough light to keep warm in every season. We have the greatest light of all in this community, the light of generosity, a spirit of abundance, a feeling that we have more than enough warmth, enough light, and enough mystery. Please pray with me. Spirit of love, we are so grateful to be here on the cusp of the winter solstice. So grateful for the beautiful music that is offered in this sanctuary and now across the world to all our friends on Zoom and Facebook. Special gratitude for Cynthia and Tom Smotzer for beautiful music. A special gratitude to Gary Davenport for a wonderful chalice lighting, for Sarah Lowry for a wonderful, humorous, thought-provoking reflection. And we are grateful for our tech team, Tim Raridan, Lola Lewis, and Andy Crabb. We are grateful for every single person in this community and in our world who has just enough light. All this we pray. Amen.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts until we are together again.
As you depart, please remember the one great fact. I'm speaking to all of you, and now across the world. You are loved and never truly alone.